Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to start by saying just thank you for being present. I know there's a lot going on in the world, and I know that DJing can be intimidating at first. And so just validating that you took the first step, you're here, you're present with me, and I'm really, really excited for this. So thank you so much for tuning in. It means a lot. I appreciate it, and I know Wham appreciates it. So thank you. So let's get into it. So you want to be a DJ? All right, cool, because anyone can be one. I know, as I said, it can be intimidating, but if I can do it, then literally anyone can do it. So you can definitely DJ if you want to. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about the equipment that you need for DJing. It's not much. Really, all you need is music that you want to share with the world and something to play it off of. So I'll talk about different kinds of equipment, different things you can start out with. And then I'll talk a little bit about software. There are different software programs that you can use to DJ. So I'll talk a bit about the different options. And then we'll go into a more detailed look into parts of the DJ controller. So kind of looking at what all of those knobs mean, just thinking about different aspects of DJing and the controller itself. Then I'll go a bit into transitions and how to actually mix the songs together. Then we'll have a quick Q&A after that. And then I'll go into kind of the more professional side of DJing, tell you how I started, tell you how to book gigs, get yourself out there once you know how to DJ. And then I'll talk a bit about the people I look up to, my inspirations, and then we'll have another Q&A at the end. So yeah, don't forget to pop your questions in the chat. And Jess is going to moderate the Q&As. Okay, so here we have DJ equipment. As I said before, the most important thing is music, sounds, recordings, really anything that you want to share with other people. I think a common misconception about DJing is that, you only have to spin music. I think some of the coolest sets that I've seen have incorporated some sort of spoken word, things you record off your phone in the world, really like anything you want to play for people. So that's really the most important part. And then a DJ controller, so that is the turntables that you see. You're gonna want those if you want to take DJing more seriously. Third is a laptop. You actually don't need a laptop to start out. There are some controllers now that you can use your phone to DJ off of. So you don't necessarily need a laptop, but once you get more serious about it, it's kind of important to have a laptop in order to organize your tracks, find new music. You're gonna want a laptop. So then you're gonna need software. As I said before, that's where you're gonna kind of organize your playlists for different gigs, things like that. Or use whatever you have. You don't need fancy equipment to be an amazing DJ. One of my favorite DJs started on a pocket controller that they bought from Amazon for like $10. So yeah, really just use whatever you have at this moment. Or you can invest in some really cool gear. And then finally, I just wanted to say to tailor your gear to you. I really love it when DJs incorporate other instruments into their live sets. I threw on Egyptian Lover here because he's known for using a Roland TR-808 drum machine, and I saw him live and that was super cool. On the bottom right, we have Pioneer DJS 1000. This is a piece of gear I really want, and how it works is you load sounds onto those buttons that you see, and then you can play them during your set. On the top right, we have Octo Octa's home studio. Octo Octa is one of my favorite DJs. And as you can see in this photo, she has a bunch of synths, turntables, a keyboard. So really just tailor your gear to whatever talents you have and what makes you happy. Okay, so I know a lot of you are probably wondering what the best gear is to start out with. And here are some that I would recommend. But first, I would think about why you're DJing and what you may need for that. So if you're just playing in your bedroom for yourself, or you're playing for close friends, you're playing some more intimate private parties, then you probably don't need much. These controllers will definitely be totally fine for you. Okay, all-inclusive pieces versus individual pieces. So basically all of these controllers that you see on your screen right here, these are all-inclusive DJ controllers. And what that means is it's one piece that has two turntables and then a mixer in the middle. Whereas you can also get individual pieces. So you can get one piece of gear that is a turntable and then another piece of gear that is an individual turntable and then the mixer in the middle. And what's really cool about those, getting the individual pieces, is that you can kind of build your equipment. So say you have a mixer and two turntables, then you can purchase two more turntables and become a 4-turntable DJ. Things like that. You can add a sampler onto your setup if you want. But if you're just starting out, an all-inclusive piece is actually really nice. It's easy to carry around, so it's like easy if you want to take it to little parties and things. And then finally, yeah, so look into used equipment. I get my used equipment from Guitar Center, Facebook, Craigslist, and then of course local audio stores. Got to shout out World of Stereo on Market in SF. That's my absolute favorite. They have a ton of used gear, really cool stuff. So after the quarantine lifts, definitely go check it out. Yeah, so here we have Pioneer DDJ SP3. I know a lot of people who started out on this controller and absolutely loved it, and they're playing gigs like all over the world now. So definitely recommend that one. On the top right, I've never used this pocket controller, but it links with Serato, which is a type of software, and it looks like perfect for just starting out. And then we have, what is this one? Yeah, the XDJ RX2. That is gonna be kind of a more high quality controller, more expensive, but really, really good piece of equipment. And then down at the bottom, I just put DJ2 on here. So this is actually an app that WAM uses in our Girls on the Mic classes, which is our middle school program. So that is what the girls start out on. And you know, if you're just trying to think, if maybe you're interested in DJing, maybe you're not, you know, maybe download the app and try that out first. You don't need much to get started with DJing, and then maybe you can invest in more equipment. Okay, so on the top here, I have the club standard controllers. So this is what you can expect to find if you're playing kind of bigger clubs or a festival, things like that. It's going to be two CDJ 2000 Nexus 2s. So that is the turntables on the left and the right. So that's two different pieces of equipment. And then in the middle is the DJM 900 Nexus 2. Really, really cool mixer. These are like, you know, cream of the crop, best equipment. And then below we can see my current setup, which is kind of just like a downgraded version of the top one. So I have two XDJ 700s and a DJM 600 mixer. So I'm kind of practicing now to play those bigger gigs, hopefully later. So what I recommend when you're looking into equipment and getting your controllers is to kind of think about where you want to be and where you want to play, and then set up your equipment to best equip you to eventually play those venues. Yeah, so like I said, if you're just doing it for fun for now, you can just get like a very simple controller to practice on. Okay, software. So you're gonna use software to organize your playlists, organize your crates for different gigs. Also, software shows you the BPM of tracks, shows you the genre, shows you the key. And so it's important to find one that's right for you. What I recommend is that you look at the features that it has. So does it link with your favorite streaming services? Some softwares link with SoundCloud, others link with Spotify and Tidal. So make sure if streaming is important to you that it links with your favorite streaming services. And then most importantly, is it compatible with your controller? So my first DJ controller only worked with Serato, so that was, I don't know, really the decision was made for me. So a lot of the times that'll happen, and it's just whatever software links with your controller. Okay, I know this is a lot of information. We're gonna have a Q&A soon. But here is a basic controller. It's actually the one that I'm going to be teaching you off of today. So this is the first DJ controller that I ever got. after practicing on a friend's for like months. This is a Pioneer DDJ SR2. And so this is kind of your basic controller, right? So you have two turntables on the left and right, and then a mixer in the middle. And it's an all-inclusive piece of equipment. You can kind of take this to a gig with your laptop and be perfectly set. So when you look at this DJ controller, the left side and the right side are actually exactly the same. So a lot of people will look at this and be super intimidated by all of the buttons and knobs and things, but actually it's only like half of what you see because the left and the right are exactly the same. So we're gonna look in detail at one side of this controller, and I'm gonna tell you kind of what everything does. So number one is the jog wheel. That is basically like the turntable part of the DJ controller. And what this does is it allows you to fast forward, rewind a track, make it go a little bit faster or slower. So that's what the jog wheel does. It's also what people use for scratching and for searching through a track. Number two is the tempo fader. So the tempo fader speeds up or slows down a song. So a lot of the times when you're transitioning between two songs, you want to make sure they have the same BPM so that they sound really good together. Not all transitions are like that, but sometimes it is really nice to have two drum beats match, and then they sound really cool when you're transitioning between songs. So that's what you're going to use to speed up or slow down the BPM. Number three is your effects knob. So on this controller, you can see there are three options for different effects. So these are going to be things like EQ, delay, reverb, echo out, filter, things like that. So you can load different effects onto these knobs and use them when you're doing transitions and things like that. Number four is performance pads. Okay, so actually I accidentally put two number fours on here. The one at the bottom right, that's the crossfader. That's like the most important controller. It's this right here. And this is what you're gonna use to transition between tracks. So say I'm playing a song on this side and I have the crossfader over here. That's what the audience is gonna hear, is the track that's on this side. And then I load a track onto the other side, and then I transition the songs by moving the crossfader. So you'll be able to start hearing this song, and then eventually when the crossfader is all the way to the left, you won't be able to hear the track that was on the right side anymore. It'll be completely this track. So that's the crossfader. But then the other number four on here with these colored pads right here, that is performance pads and sample pads. So this is actually very particular to this controller. Not all controllers have these, but they're really cool and I really enjoy them. So let me show you kind of an example of what that does. Just gonna share. So I'm using Serato today. And basically what it does, so I have Undefeated by Rihanna J on the left side of my DJ controller. And what I can do is choose a part of the song that I want to mark, and then I click a hotkey button. So if you can see, it lights up orange, and then on here, there's an orange triangle. See the orange triangle up there? So every time I click the orange button, it's gonna go back to that orange triangle. And you can press down and hold it and it'll keep going. But yeah, so hot cue is a way to mark a part of the song. So sometimes I'll mark the beginning of a song to make sure it comes in perfectly on beat. Sometimes I'll hot cue on the drop of a song and I can like dramatically transition into the drop. But yeah, it's really fun to kind of just have fun with the hot cues and try out different things. Okay, the next one is roll. And what roll does is it replays part of the song. So that can range from a 16th note all the way to, I think, like 4 bars or something. But let me show you an example of that too. So say I'm playing Undefeated. And then when I press down roll on my DJ controller, it'll loop a particular beat. So it'll just keep playing that certain one whenever I hold it down. So that's what roll does. Let's see what else we got. Okay, slicer. So slicer, I actually don't use that much, but it kind of does similar things to hot cue where it'll take you back to a certain part of the song. So just play with that one, it's really fun. And then finally, sampler is an option where you can load sounds onto your controller and then you can play them during your set. So right now I have like an air horn on there and someone saying, hey, things like that. A lot of people like to put their DJ name in a cool voice so that they can blast it during their sets. But yeah, that's what sampler does. So you can load your very own sounds. I've seen people use it where they upload like a drum beat on the sampler and then they can finger drum while they're drumming. It's really, really cool. So yeah, just play around with sampler, load different sounds. Really, really fun to play with during transitions or just while you're playing a track. Okay, I lost my place. Okay, number 5, volume fader. Okay, so these are volume faders for the particular deck you're on. So this volume fader affects this side of the controller, and this volume fader affects this side of the controller. Now there's also a master level up here, master level volume. So this will affect the volume of the entire controller. Whatever you're playing, this will affect it. Whereas these only affect the track with the side that they're on. Okay, number 6 is headphone cue. So a lot of people ask me why DJs wear headphones when they're DJing. And the answer is when you press cue, you can actually hear that track in your headphones. So when everyone's dancing in the club and the DJ has their headphones on, they're usually listening to the next song that they're about to play and making sure the transition sounds really cool. So yeah, headphone cue, if you press that button, then you can hear the song in your headphones. Okay, number 7 is shift. So that will undo your hot cues. So those hot cues that I set on undefeated, if I press down shift and then click them again, they go away. And then you can set new hot cues. And then it also undoes the tempo sync, which is number 8. So tempo sync will do the same thing as the tempo faders. So like I said, you know, if you want to speed up or slow down a track to match the BPM of the other track, the sync button does the same thing where it will match the BPMs of both tracks. Just be careful with that one though, because sometimes the sync doesn't get it perfectly. And so sometimes I want to do it manually with the tempo fader instead. Okay, number 9, we're almost there, hang in there. Number 9 is cue. So that is where to start the song. And the software automatically sets it at the beginning of the song. But you know, say I want to bring in a track in the middle when it drops, then I can set the cue there so then I can easily play that part of the song when I transition. Okay, number 10, pause and play. That's pretty self-explanatory. That will pause and play the track on that side. The only thing that I would mention with pause and play is make sure the crossfader is on the correct side, or else pause and play won't do anything if it's on the wrong side. Okay, 11 is auto loop. So what auto loop will do is it will loop a certain part of the song. So, you know, if a song has a really cool drum intro, I might loop that so then I can bring in just the drums of that song to the other song that I'm also playing on the DJ controller. It kind of does the same thing as roll, but with roll you have to hold it down with your finger, whereas loop you can just set it and kind of forget it and make sure it comes in nice and clear during your transition. Okay, number 12 is volume knobs. So yeah, that's gonna be, like I was saying, there's a master volume level, and then there's also volume knobs for high, mid, and low frequencies. So if you wanna take out just the highs, there's a knob for that. You wanna take out the mids, there's a knob for that. There's a knob for everything. But yeah, that's basically what those do, is there's different knobs for different frequencies. And then finally, we made it. Number 13 is your load button. That's probably the most important button on the controller because that's how you choose a song to play. So basically you choose the song, click load, and then it'll load to that side of the DJ controller. And then you're ready to play. Okay, first Q&A, let's do it.
Okay, so we have a question. What's the range of BPM you can speed up or slow down usually?
So there's actually a setting for that, usually on your software. So you can decide how specific the tempo fader is. I personally do like between 10 to 20 BPM. But yeah, it's really up to you.
Cool, so you can adjust it even.
You can adjust it, yeah.
Cool. And one more question. What do you use to load samples and effects onto your controller?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. There's a setting on your software where it'll show, let me show you. Here, so here's my Serato. So this is just on Serato. I don't know how other softwares do it. But so if you click effects, this is where you change what's on your effects knob. So these are the different effects I have, and the effects are in settings. Yeah, settings of Serato. But then for the samples, that's gonna be under this little air horn symbol right here. And that's where there's different banks. So you can load a bunch of samples in here. But yeah, you just load your samples into here and then you can play them off the sampler.
Cool. We got a few more questions. Where do you get your songs, samples, instrumentals, and oh, I lost the chat. Instrumentals and solos. Where do you get all those things?
Ooh, okay. Songs, samples, instrumentals, and solos. So I'm going to talk a bit later about how I get my songs. With samples, it's kind of tricky. There's all sorts of resources online. Right now, I've been using Splice a lot, but sometimes I'll just type in Google, like, I don't know, person saying, hey, and then find one I like and then do it from wherever. I know that a lot of people also use Reddit for that kind of thing. But yeah, and then instrumentals. There are a lot of companies that have like specific instrumentals. Usually you have to pay a monthly fee to use those services. But I don't know. I don't really use that many instrumentals, but I'll usually just look for them online.
Yeah. You noted 3 different software programs in the slide: Serato, Rekordbox, and what was the third one? And which program is your favorite?
Yeah, okay, so let me go back to that slide. So these are just kind of the main ones that I can think of. I'm sure there are plenty of others out there. I personally started on Serato and I love it. I think it's a great, great program. The only thing is now my setup uses Rekordbox, and the club standard setup also uses Rekordbox. So in a way, I kind of wish I started with it just so that it would be second nature right now. Mm-hmm. But really, they're all very similar, and whatever you start with, you'll definitely be able to use the others. So don't worry too much about that.
How about we take one more? What do you feel are the big differences between this controller, which is 750, and the Pioneer, which SB3, which is 250?
Such a good question. Honestly, I think the SB3 does almost exactly the same thing. A lot of DJ controllers do the same thing, and then I don't know, a lot of the higher price ones just have very specific features. Like, for example, mine, when you turn it on, it gives like a little light show and it's like really cute and colorful. And then they also added this thing at the top that allows me to search within the track. So that's just faster than like using my jog wheel for that. But honestly, it's very small things that the more expensive ones have that the less expensive ones don't. So if you're just starting, I would just go for the SB3.
Cool. Can we fit one more question in?
Yeah.
When do you choose cue versus hot cue?
Okay, so cue. I almost always use hot cues because I can set them at many different points in the song. With cue, I'll usually keep my cue. So this is the cue button. I'll usually keep my cue at the very beginning of a song, just in case I have to go back to the start of the song. So sometimes I'll add a bunch of hot cues, and then I just want to go back to the beginning of the song. And so that's why I usually like to keep it at the beginning.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the questions, everyone.
Cool, thanks everyone. Keep them coming. All right, so transitions. There's no right way to transition between songs. I know lots of different DJs do it many different ways. There are so many methods. There's beat matching, which is where, you basically match the BPMs of the song, and then you make sure that the beats sound really good together, and then you can mix between songs. There's using effects, so you can, put reverb really, really heavily on one track and then dramatically transition into another song. Things like that. There's also scratching, which is super classic, and sampling. So like I was saying, you can load on a drum pad on here and finger drum, and that's another way of transitioning. So today I'm going to show you a quick BPM matching transition. Let's see here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this Georgia Smith song on the left side of my controller, and I'm gonna put Gasolina on the right side of my controller. So as you can see here, they have pretty similar BPMs. Georgia Smith song is 130. It's an On My Mind remix. And then Gasolina is at 132. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use the sync button for this one. So if I press sync on Gasolina, then it automatically becomes 130. I also could have used the tempo knob for that, but for this, I just wanted to sync it for now. Okay, so when I change the audio of this, you're not gonna be able to hear me, but basically what I'm doing is I'm just bringing in Gasolina on beat with On My Mind. So if you can see here, I put a hot cue in purple where I want to start transitioning. So I know that when I see this purple triangle right here, that's when I'm gonna wanna press this red button, this red hot cue I set, so that it's perfectly on beat with the other song. So let's go ahead and try it. You're not gonna be able to hear me talking. I'll be back soon. Okay. Okay, cool. So that is just a quick example of a transition that you might do. If you noticed, I also used, sorry, one second. I also used a filter as I was transitioning from this side to this side. I also used a low pass filter. So I was kind of filtering out this song as I was transitioning. And then I also played with roll a little bit. Yeah, so that's kind of a basic transition. But as I said before, there are so many ways of doing transitions. And also at the end of this session, I'm gonna play a little set after the Q&A. So if you wanna stay on and see a couple different types of transitions, then I'll be doing that at the end. Okay, so I thought I would say a little bit about how to kind of get into DJing and start booking gigs. Yeah, I just want to make sure you all can hear me. So the way I started out was my best friend introduced me to DJing, and he taught me how to DJ. I would borrow his controller all the time. That's my friend Ricky right there. And I started in concert promoting. So I planned events and concerts, and I booked myself. I booked myself as the opening act. And I personally think that booking a gig is good motivation to practice and be ready that night. So even if it's just setting up like a wine night with your friends or something like that, just to get you practicing and get you ready for that night, it's really good motivation if you're trying to start out. And then, yeah, just get whatever equipment you can and find friends and start practicing. I personally think that you get very different things out of practicing alone versus with friends. You know, your friends can show you really cool transitions and things like that, but when you're DJing alone, it's really fun to just play with the equipment on your own and kind of develop your own style. And then, yeah, I just wanted to say, don't beat yourself up if your transitions aren't perfect. I remember when I was first starting out, I told my friend to come listen to me DJing, and they were like, it does not sound good. These transitions aren't that good. But then during my first gig, they were there like front and center cheering me on, and it was lit. So there you go. It'll be great. Okay, so I wanted to talk a bit about the people I look up to, my favorite DJs. Top left, we have Grand Wizard Theodore. So he invented scratching, and there are so many cool videos of him on YouTube. If you look him up, I love watching him DJ, super, super cool. On the top right, we have DJ Kool Herc. He is one of the forefront people in the hip hop movement in the Bronx in the 70s. So he threw like really cool parties that people would want to come to and just to see him DJ. He also invented break beats. So the break of a song is kind of a part, usually in the middle of a song, with live instrumentation and drum. So DJ will and then he will transition into that same back him. Is on here. So we have Noodles, who is from the Bay. She's Kaylani's official DJ. We have Eris Drew and Octo Octa, an amazing pair. So Super Sam and Mia Carucci are LA-based DJs. And then we have Nina Kravitz, who is one of the most famous DJs in the world right now. Like really, really cool. So I would definitely check out these people. And then I got to shout out all my homies in the Bay too. Support local DJs. We got all of these amazing people doing really cool work in the Bay. And then also wanted to shout out these collectives. So Club Chai, B-Side Brujas, Chulita Vinyl Club. These are all amazing collectives of women and non-binary folks in DJing in the Bay. So yeah, maybe screenshot this, you know, check out these people. They're all really dope. And I look up to all of these people. Okay, so now I'll talk a little bit about the music and digging. So as I said, kind of music is really the most important part about DJing. If you love what you're playing and you feel that good energy, then it'll radiate into the room and people will love it. So something to note is lots of music is still only on vinyl. So that's a reason why a lot of people swear by their vinyl collections, is because they have these really unique records and the producer decided never to digitize it. So it's only available on vinyl. Try to use lossless files. Okay, this is important when you're playing your festivals and playing your big clubs with the big sound systems, is to make sure you have lossless files like WAV files instead of MP3s, because the quality on those big sound systems can start to sound really bad if you don't have good quality music. So start digging and get the music for the venues that you eventually want to play. Yeah, choose music you love. Don't mind the genre, especially when you're first starting out. You don't have to be like, I only spin hip hop or I only spin house. Like, just really just get music that you love and that you want to share with the world. And then I wanted to talk a bit about edits. So before I started DJing, I thought that when DJs played really cool remixes, that they were doing it right there on the spot on their DJ controller. But that's usually actually not the case. A lot of the times the DJ has digged really hard for those really cool remixes. So yeah, that's how edits and remixes work. Yeah, so these are what I usually use for digging. I love SoundCloud, lots of really, really cool producers on SoundCloud. Spotify, Bandcamp. I still use iTunes. I don't know if anyone else does, but I still love iTunes. And then of course, thrift stores, CDs, playing friends' music. I'm really fortunate and a lot of my friends send me what they're working on and I'll blast that in the club. And of course, word of mouth. Word of mouth is not dead, so share the music you love with your friends. Okay, booking gigs, out of the bedroom and into the club. So if you're looking to play at bigger venues, here are some tips that I have. So first and foremost is to practice. You don't want to reach out to that promoter and not be ready to give them your best mix. And you want to make mixes for the types of sets that you're wanting to play. So I recommend that you record and share your mixes, share them online, share them on SoundCloud, Mixcloud, and you'll be surprised. A lot of people will reach out. A lot of DJs are super down to swap mixes and give each other feedback. So really put yourself out there and just share your work. Electronic press kit. I won't go into too much detail about this, but this is something that when you get to a more professional level, you're going to give to the promoters of events. And basically it shows kind of a gallery of photos of places you've played, and then kind of brands you've worked with, things like that. Negotiating payment. A lot of people ask me if I take unpaid gigs, and usually I don't. My kind of rule is that if other people on the lineup are getting paid, then I should be getting paid. And if they're taking cover at the door, then I probably should be getting paid. I remember one time this guy reached out to me wanting me to DJ a whole event. And I asked, is it gonna be paid? And he was like, oh, I'm kind of like running low on funds. And I was like, no, like everyone else on that lineup is getting paid. So I still went to the event. It was fun. But yeah, so make sure you're getting paid what you're worth. And then yeah, interact with other artists, go to the events, introduce yourself, tell them who you are, share your music with them. A lot of the times if you reach out to a producer, they'll be more than happy to listen to your work. And then yeah, throw your own events, book yourself, and finally be nice. It seems like common sense, but it will take you far. Like I've seen some DJs be rude at their sound checks and people remember that. So just make sure that, you carry yourself with respect and you treat yourself and others well, and it'll all come back. Okay, let's do the final Q&A.
Well, I saw some really good technical questions.
Oh, cool.
Let me find it. Oh, there's some more too. Okay, as a DJ, do you think you should be able to transition any song, or should you stick to staying around the same BPM, key, etc.? How much time do you spend prepping for a set or performance?
Okay, yeah, so with transitions, I think that you can definitely transition between songs with different BPMs. You just got to be creative about it. So whether that's, finger drumming into it or using really cool effects and flipping to the other song. Two tracks definitely don't have to have the same BPM, but sometimes it is fun to play with that. Like sometimes a song that's pretty fast will sound really cool slowed down. So also play with that. And then how much do I prepare before my sets? I don't, is the answer to that. So the way I usually work is I just practice every day if I can, or as much as possible. And then so hopefully when I walk into a venue, I can kind of just feel out the vibe and I have enough music to fit whatever vibe I walk into. Also, booking gigs, sometimes you'll get really random venues and you have no idea what to expect. So it's pretty hard to prepare. But if I know a venue really well, sometimes I'll throw songs into a creative music or a playlist. Yeah, so I prep in that way. Like I think about what kinds of songs I think would sound good at the gig and I'll throw them into a playlist, but I don't like plan the set before I go in.
Okay, cool. How soon after learning to DJ did you book your first gig?
It happened quick for me. I booked myself and then that made me learn. And then after that, the gigs kept coming. So honestly, I don't think it's ever too soon to book a gig. As long as you're not like playing a super big venue, I think it can only help you learn.
How would you recommend someone reach out to promoters, clubs, bars, or artists to DJ if we don't have firsthand contact?
Yeah, so one funny story is when I moved to San Francisco this past August, I reached out to my favorite bar and I just cold emailed the person who owned it and sent her one of my mixes, just like a cold email. And then she booked me a week later and I've been playing at that bar. I love it. So yeah, you can email people your mixes. It is really, really helpful to have a secondhand contact. If you know someone who knows someone, like just work those contacts and try to network. And then also, sometimes I'll just randomly reach out on social media or through email or through an online contact form and just tell them I'm interested. And then they'll reach back usually and be like, oh, can you send us one of your mixes? Or they'll kind of like check out my different socials and things and see if I would be a good fit.
What are your thoughts of using DJ pools for music to play?
DJ pools. What does that mean?
I think they're talking about record pools.
Like downloading a bunch of songs?
I think they're talking about like websites where you can subscribe to a bunch of music.
Oh, I'm not personally subscribed to one, but I know a lot of DJs who use those types of tools. So they'll download like the top 100 songs and they'll get it at a deal. I think those are pretty good when you're starting out. I personally like to select every song by hand, but if that works for you and you're just starting out, then that's like a perfectly good option.
Can you explain how to use filters and effects in transition and how to play between differences in BPM?
Yeah, okay, so let's see, how are we doing on time? Yeah, so I think if you can just stick around at the end and see me do some transitions, I'm gonna use the filters during those. And I also do a transition between different BPMs. So stay tuned for that. We don't have time to get super into it right now, but I think like watching me will help.
Let's see. In DJ software like Serato and Rekordbox, is there a way to prep a whole set in advance and bounce it out post on YouTube?
Bounce it out post. Oh.
Post on YouTube.
Yes. I don't really get what they're asking with bouncing it out to YouTube.
Maybe I'm not sure if someone wants to.
But the short answer is yes. You can plan a whole set on Serato and on Rekordbox. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Do you think you need a background in music to be able to DJ well?
No, I don't. I didn't have a background in music. I mean, I took like piano lessons when I was little, but that was it. So yeah, I don't think you need any like prerequisites to be a DJ. Also going back to someone who asked about keys of songs, usually the crowd won't know if you're in a different key unless it sounds really off. So it kind of depends on the person, because I know some people who are like music theory freaks who like very much pay attention to the keys. And that's super cool. And like their sets probably sound really smooth. I personally don't think too much about key because oftentimes the common person who's dancing won't notice.
Okay. Do you do any wedding receptions?
I don't normally. I'm doing one for like a family friend. So there are definitely exceptions, but yeah, case by case.
Okay. And then last question, do you keep your music on an external drive, or does it all fit on your computer?
Both. Yeah. It doesn't all fit on my computer. So yeah, you might have to put some on your external drive.